Good evening and welcome to tonight's exclusive, groundbreaking expose. Foley is political. Now, I think this topic is going to have fans very emotional, very decisive. So, we're going to see how it goes. We have a request from Paul tonight. Thank you for joining us. Do you have something to say now to start this topic off?
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, man.
I saw your text, so I was like,
Good.
definitely gotta get on the call.
Oh, yeah. That's what I like to hear. Now, I don't want to use this totally as a way to bash Foley because, I think of him as two separate people. The man who left his blood, in that ring, and the man who's, been making some very controversial, political statements. And I also
Like,
want to.
like
What?
for me, I love Foley the wrestler,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
man I absolutely despise.
Yeah, see, I'm really getting to that point too, because I don't know. I always did like him just because of his violent style and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just his whole persona. Like you've seen me mention it a million times. He tries. It's not even just like a TV character. He really does try to play himself off as this, kind of childlike, stumbling, bumbling, heart of gold, kind of, guy. But I then he goes, on Twitter and he's saying stuff like, remove this son of a blank from our Hall of Fame, telling people to make that, crucial recent medical decision without an educational background. And now, on his new show with that major, industry journalism giant, Conrad Thompson, he's making jokes about the side effects of Blue Chew. Between all the laughing and joking, like I mentioned, I mean, Foley does stop to mention, maybe we should mention the side effects here. And then he just goes on to make vulgar metaphors. I mean, nothing. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I listen to almost every episode of that show, because I do think, Foley does have some stories to tell the fans. But oh my God, just the side of him that comes out at times during that podcast really is troubling. Paul, have you watched or listened, to any of his recent podcasts? And did he say anything that kind of stuck out at
I
you?
mean, I haven't listened to his podcast, but I'll give you an example from whenever he was wrestling, like
Yeah, of
during
course.
the late '90s. It
Okay.
was okay.
Great era.
Okay. So he has the persona like mankind
Yeah.
or something like that. But then he wants to go out of his way on like an off the script type show.
Are you still there? I think you cut out there. Just give you a minute to. So what Paul was talking about, he cut off there, was Foley's role in this industry in that late 90s period. Are you there, Paul? Seems we may have lost communication with Paul as he was just about to discuss a very topic regarding Foley at the peak of the career. I want to welcome, I can't see your full name.
But
Oh, there you are. Okay, you're on.
My bad.
Oh no, that's fine. You were talking about,
someone called me.
Foley's.
Someone called me, so I had to.
Oh, it's okay. That's okay.
Back to what I was saying. He he would go on TV as this mankind persona, as a character. Then
Yeah.
he would go like on an off the script type show and legit bash in because they think they're political or some shit. I'm like, dude, stop doing this shit because you're a character
Yeah.
on TV.
Yeah.
Yet you're going on
Yeah. See,
like
see
podcasts,
you're big here.
all
I'm
these
gonna
other
interrupt you.
shows, and
Sorry.
bashing people. What the?
Listen.
Like,
I'm gonna
when
stop you
you're
right there
a
because you're
character on
Oh,
TV,
sorry.
you just don't destroy your character by doing other shit that could easily divide the fan base and make
Oh,
people
exactly.
think
And
that
see,
maybe this guy is not all that.
well, what I do find troubling, I mean, everybody's entitled to like their interests and stuff like that. But the whole idea, he's Santa Claus. He looks at Disneyland, the same way
Hello.
as a child might. But then, he'll turn around, go on live news and just kind of throw out these statements, I think something, and I don't want to get into political debate because I'm actually not American, but he would go on and he would call someone like a Donald Trump, inept, and if he is or isn't, that's a personal belief. Foley does not have a science background. And it's just, it doesn't mesh well with how he tries to portray himself as this kind of, make a wish, like, I don't know. It seems like the innocent part of his persona is fake to me. I'm just going to give you a moment there. Are you still there? Do we need to call the medical services or? Well, unfortunately, we lost Paul. I think he might have set his phone down or something, so I'm going to continue off that point. Very liberal, is Foley. He's, I think he was making statements that he was anti-guns. He was, I mean, I get this. He was anti, what was it, white supremacists? Are you okay? Good Lord. We're just gonna mute him for a moment until he raises his hand again. I'm not sure taking a bathroom break or something along that line. Just raise your hand when you're back with us, Paul. Now I'm gonna continue off. And I think one of the first people I remember speaking out, and this video is long gone now. I actually had the clip downloaded on an old laptop, and I think I've lost it now. It was Stephen Richards, from ECW fame. One moment here. from ECW fame, Steven Richards, and he reviewed, and he talked openly about Foley. He said something along the lines. I wish I still had the clip, but from what I remember, it was something along the line of, when they did that Hardcore Justice reunion, Foley was adamant that he be put front and center on the poster, and yes, he is a big name, but, apparently, according to Richards, at first he was not prominently featured on the front of the poster. And you go back and look at TNA Hardcore Justice 2010, and you'll see Foley is prominently featured. And Richards went on to say, Foley was stamping up and down the backstage hallways, that he should be front and center, that he is the, highlighted act. But I mean, he refereed. He wasn't in an active, if anybody should have been on the cover or the front, it should have been Dreamer or, Van Dam. So that was the first time I noticed that, the winds were sort of rustling, saying that Foley wasn't all this, holly jolly type of guy. And now what I'm going to talk about, because, if you go back and, you throw on Foley's greatest hits, can't deny, hell of a career. He's been called at times the glorified stunt man. And, a little bit of tasteless language, but, in a way that is true. He wasn't an athlete. He could take big bumps. His work rate, I think, was passable. You really don't think of how big of a guy he is, but he is, if I am correct, I just don't want to close this, but I do believe he is 6 feet tall. And he's about probably 300 pounds. But if you look at him, on WWE TV, he just kind of looked like an average size overweight guy. But you have to kind of keep in mind, he's quite large. So being able to do a lot of what he did really was quite something. And I also want to add that, I do believe personally that, Foley and Paul having that Royal Rumble 2000 performance, the street fight in New York, really, kicked off that whole era, of event bloodbaths that we would see over the next 3 or so years. Oh, one moment here. Paul, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Are you there, Paul?
Yes, I am.
Were you following along, or
a bit of technical difficulties when I was?
Oh, no, I understand that happened.
Whenever
that happens,
I was telling you about what I thought of
Foley on the talk show in the 90s.
Yeah, I was talking about that, and you wasn't responding, so I had to get out, come back.
That's okay.
Okay.
Go on.
Can I finish what I was saying?
Of course, yeah.
I'm gonna restart what I was saying. So, okay. Basically, my thing with Mick is like in the late 90s, like he will portray Mankind, and then he will go like on a talk show, and like he would like bash people like Hogan, Nash, and all those other type of people. Like, all those political guys, but you ain't so innocent yourself, Mick. we all know you to be a very cool guy. And that's my issue with him, is he doesn't understand, like, whenever you're a full-on character, you can't be saying this stuff in public.
Yeah, exactly. I guess, I mean, in a way, he is just a very passionate person. And, it's not exactly fair for me to just say, well, you don't have a background in politics, so it's not your right to be saying this. But just since he does have such a large platform, I think his words do carry a little bit of weight. I did a poll, and, some of them could have just been people messing around, but I distinctly wrote, if Foley told you to make that crucial medical decision, with that worldwide medical crisis that we went through, strictly based off Foley telling you to get it, would you do it? And there was a portion of the audience that said they would.
Bruh. God.
And, he did a lot of media. He was saying stuff like, making that crucial medical decision is about as, what was it, painless as one of my matches or something like that? I don't know.
Like, for him to say it was painless as one of his matches, like, bro, please just shut up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it was just an uncomfortable time, where a lot of celebrities that probably really didn't know what they were talking about.
Like, for me, honestly, like, I do tend to have, like, kind of like a phobia of needles. Like, I don't like them. Even if I didn't have the phobia, I still would never taken the vaccine, because, leave it or not, I wouldn't have been the same person after I would have took it, or I would have been dead.
Right. And that what? Oh, sorry. I thought you were about to say something. But yeah, like, he was making a lot of posts. He actually deleted his Twitter account, so I can't really, share a lot of that stuff in the group. But,
he deleted it
openly saying, go and get this done. I'm doing it. You should.
And I think that's one of my biggest problems with people like Mick, is like he'll say, like, I'm doing something, so you should too. Like, hold on.
Yeah.
Everyone is different. Not everyone is have, the best reaction towards the vaccine. Because not everyone's body is able to how am I supposed to say this? Accept the fluids in the vaccine. Like, not everybody like has that good body tendencies to accept the fluids.
Yeah, and also, if you remember, there was also the time, I'm not going to use the actual name of the condition, but, I don't know if you remember this, there were tweets and news stories that Foley had actually been suffering from that, major medical situation. And, they were kind of portraying him as like this big hero, or that he could pass away, and he was kind of like on his experience. I don't know if you read that story or not, but what's really bizarre is that was after he made the decision. So he's telling fans to make that medical decision, and then, he's suffering from that medical condition, and still telling people to go out and make that choice.
It's like, to me, he's probably the biggest hypocrite I've ever fucking known.
Yeah. Like, I feel bad because, I mean, it's a little silly. But really, when you see stuff he talks about and the way he talks, it's not good sometimes.
Like for example, okay, like you said, he took the vaccine, then he immediately got COVID, and he was
Yeah,
suffering from it. I'm like, dude, that's what I've been saying this whole time. That vaccine legit gives you COVID.
yeah, yeah. And he's been through so much in his career. He probably could have been more susceptible
Like,
to it.
I remember, there was a video of Foley laughing at Vince taking the stunner from Stone Cold at Mania, and the dude like he was laughing, but you couldn't hear him laugh at all.
Exactly, exactly.
And like,
Um, I had another thing to talk. So once you finish there,
okay,
I'll go on. But yeah, finish your thought there.
I think of how his views, his statements, how he like the dude just seems like the biggest cuck ever. I'm serious.
Yeah. What's that?
I'm like, he like, to me, he just sounds like the biggest cuck I've ever known in my life.
Okay, now I will admit I'm not familiar with that modern term. I've heard it here and there,
don't
but
want to know.
okay, well, we'll just leave it as it is. I'm sure the viewing audience, may be able to fill us in. But as you were talking, there was another thing I just wanted to mention. It's kind of fleeting from me now. I had a couple different things. Sorry if it's a little all over
It's
the place,
alright.
but another point. Thank you. Another point I wanted to make. I don't know how long, Paul, you've been following, that major influential industry name, but have you watched Holy Foley?
Uh, uh, I don't remember.
Which was, mix,
Was
worldwide, reality
was it
show
on the
that I believe aired in 2016.
was it on the WWE Network? Like,
Yes.
I remember like watching like at least like one episode of it, and that's it.
Well, a few points I'm going to bring up. It is tough at times to clips. I wrote down a list of just some things I wanted to mention from it. Okay, first, Noelle, his daughter,
His beautiful daughter.
announced to Mick that she wanted to pose in Playboy, and Mick was. It was so bizarre. I wish I could find the clip on YouTube.
Like,
Mick is sitting in this like weird Christmas room, dressed as like an elf. His daughter comes in and is telling him, I think I want to pose for Playboy. And then Mick's spitting his false teeth all over the floor and swearing, saying, F that, F no, F. Right there, I was like, how did they even let that get to air?
it's the fact of the matter is this, okay? Is Mick, you grew up in a time where the women were
Yeah.
posing for Playboy, were doing
Yeah.
sexy matches all over each fucking week, and by God, it was the best time alive to be a wrestling fan. and then you want to tell your daughter that she can't do this, yet she is a legal adult, as in she can do this.
Another point is, and if you go back and watch that documentary Beyond the Mat, there is an instance where, Foley's young daughter, I don't know how old she was, 6, 7, is running around saying nipples. And, they're laughing and joking, oh, it's cute. That's her favorite word. Every kid's got a favorite word. And then Yeah, so he's enabling,
Clearly,
that
clearly,
interest.
clearly, Mick and his wife are failures as parents.
Oh, well, maybe that's a little far because we're going to get more into that, but maybe I can agree with you on this next point. Okay. We're also introduced for the first time to Foley's younger sons. And I want to be careful here, as Foley mentions it publicly on the show. They are what he describes as on the spectrum. And, with all due respect, I'm just going to leave it at that. But, I mean, good God, they were the most entitled, rude,
His sons?
his younger sons.
I didn't even know he had sons.
Well, yeah, he has 3 sons, his older son and then his 2 younger twin sons who were featured. And I don't know how old they were, probably like 14, something-ish like that. But, like, they were calling Noelle a whore and burping and farting, and it was just all ha-ha.
So wait.
And, even Foley was, like, laughing along with them. And his wife is sitting there, with her mouth wide open, like, I married a child here.
Okay, I'm going to just say this right now. I do not know why Noelle Foley puts up with her own father when her father does not give 2 shits about what she wants to do with her life, is not supportive.
Well, here, I'm going to stop you right there, okay? Listen. He got hot over her wanting to do the Playboy, but, he's making donations, thousands of dollars to hard-bodied industry superwomen like Thunder Rosa. But, he can't fork over a couple grand, to keep daughter off OnlyFans.
That's something that really pissed me off.
Oh, yeah, I really did truly find that troubling. I mean, the fact that she made it openly clear, this is my choice to do this, and it's for medical costs, medical reasons.
And it works, too. It gives you a lot of money. It works.
Yes, but I mean, do you really think there was a conversation there where Mick was like, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to just fork you over, what? 10 grand, 20 grand? I mean, to keep your daughter from,
I really don't think there was a conversation, because if I'm in her shoes, and he has legit told me that I wasn't going to be able to do Playboy, I would say, fuck you, I'm going to do OnlyFans and make my own money.
Well, you got to remember too, it's not like full frontal nudity. It's basically like bathing suit pictures.
Yeah, it's, it's not like nudity, Mick. Like, come on.
No.
Like,
but I think it does kind of shine a little bit of a bad light on the Foley family. Just that situation even had to take place. It just seems like, I don't know, maybe she did turn Mick down and was like, no, I want to try to make this on my own.
Clearly she
and maybe he was just like, shrugged the shoulders, okay, whatever, like, it's your choice. But just with Foley's image, being that, Make-A-Wish, Santa Claus, type guy, it just seems like he would have done anything he could to stop that from happening.
And, like, to me, honestly, like, if I were to say this to Mick, I was like, I do not have a problem with your daughter doing OnlyFans or that type of stuff. I don't have a problem with it because, for one, she's not harming herself, and she's made by using her beauty, which, in my honest opinion, it's probably the most perfect way a woman can get money.
Well, what really troubled me was when she, I remember I mentioned this in my video, so it's kind of going over this again. But when she made the initial announcement, she had a photo saying, my OnlyFans is starting whenever, blah, blah. And good Lord, Paul, if you look at the comments,
people were patiently waiting.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe some of this crap people like saying, that's another thing. I mean, it's not just doing the OnlyFans, it's subjecting your own daughter, to that kind of, I don't know. But I wanted to make clear the comment that I kept seeing in different types of wording was, and I found this really disturbing. A lot of fans were kind of making the joke like, oh, like I seen you as a baby and beyond the mat. How am I going to blank to you now?
Oh boy.
I mean, good Lord, is that really appropriate? Like, I find it really odd that there, if you go on her profile and you look at the comments, that's something I've been doing lately, is reading the comments under like some of the female stars. Is, oh my God, they're crazy. Some of these people are delusional.
Yeah, but you gotta remember, these girls know what they're doing. They activate this behavior meant for a reason.
Well, you got to remember, she is also engaged or married now. But it seems like a lot of fans were trying to lay the same line, like, I watched you in Matt, and you're beautiful, and blah blah blah. I mean, does the fans really think, connection is enough to? I don't know. I just found the fact that people kept mentioning, I seen you as a kid, and now, oh, you're hot or beautiful. Like, that's disturbing.
That's really fucking weird.
Yeah. And there was also this sicko who was saying, something along the lines is, if there's no nudes, I'm not going to pay.
Like, you don't need to have fucking nudes, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, there's one more point I want to bring up from Foley's pod, and I really want to get your opinion on this one. This clip is on YouTube if you want to take a look. So I don't know how exactly this happened, but somehow Foley's son, I think he's been in his early to mid 30s now, was hired as a writer for, WWE. And you could tell that I think his son was very much like, I know who my dad is, but I want to go in there and, get respect for my work ethic and my ideas, which I thought was pretty, nice to see. You could tell, I think he wanted to not have the job based on the father, right?
He didn't want to be how am I supposed to say this?
The office daddy's boy.
Hand me down, basically.
Yeah. But then, this was troubling. Like, maybe it was just stage for the show, but Mick shows up, full costume and everything.
Just legit embarrasses this poor guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because he's a celebrity, but everybody was like, oh yeah, like, we love you, Mick. Like, will you sign this? Will you sign that? And you could see that the son was basically burying his head in his desk and was like, okay, bye. Like, and it's kind of sad because you could use a situation. So I think somebody else could use a situation like that as a way to get ahead. But you could tell, I think the son was a little bothered by fact that Foley was in there, like, this is my son and blah blah blah. I thought it was a little troubling.
It's just, I think Foley he tries his best to stay relevant,
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
he thinks is right is not the right thing to do at all.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to move on to the next topic here,
Okay.
which is, what was it? We're going to talk a little bit about his new show, which you have not listened to. I'm just going to make a couple points. So I haven't listened to like absolutely every episode, but if I'm on a long drive and I see a new episode, I'll usually pop it on, see what's going on. But I do find it's so bizarre. Conrad Thompson, as I call that major modern industry journalism giant, is constantly trying to drag Mick into some kind of like sexual tirade, and like I said, I guess you can't really say much because you haven't listened, but he made a comment about Mick, that he didn't end up using a condom with the woman because the condom he had in his wallet had been there so long that it was expired.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And there was also this very we learned. Say again. Say.
For crying out sake, he has modern in his nickname, for crying out sake. I think I can tell you every bit of things that is wrong with that man.
Who?
The Conrad guy.
Yeah, see, that's another topic. We're not going to get too much into it, but I'd love to discuss that some other time. Very odd situation because honestly, like, I'm very half and half. I do like what he does, but at the same time, I don't know. There's just something about him and something about the show and just all that stuff that just really gives me a weird vibe. Like, I describe it as, somebody adding another toy to the toy box,
Yeah.
Well, hey, I got JR. I got Eric Bischoff. Now I got Kurt Angle. Now I got JR. Now I got Mick Foley. And as the bigger names come in, the lower names kind of slide down the totem pole.
Wait, hold on. Isn't Conrad that big dude?
Yep.
That big white dude?
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder I work it. Wait, hold on. Isn't he the guy that was at AEW's reveal event,
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yes.
Oh Lord.
What's also shocking, a lot of people don't know, is he does have ties to this connection, to this industry, because he's actually married to one of Ric Flair's daughters who isn't in the industry.
Thought Charlotte was the only one.
So in a way, he does have a lot of political pull. And now, hello? Okay. Now, for a lot of like retired legends, of this industry, I even believe getting a show with Conrad is almost a bigger deal than being featured on one of the main, WWE or AEW. But I do notice the more names he brings on, he's throwing others to the back burner. Like, I remember JR. I like JR a lot, really. And I don't know. His podcast is okay because he's a very slow speaker. It depends on what he's talking about. But Conrad throw some other young dude on with him, and I was actually surprised because the young dude that they put on with JR was actually much better. But in a way, kind of shows you, well, who do I value more? I got to be there for Mick. I got to be there for Angle. I think he does Jeff Jarrett. But, Bruce Pritchard, we can just kind of stick him with the intern this week. And, I think that would have a lot of talent hot, worried about their future, worried about, how much longer they can stay relevant. I also noticed recently, and Conrad jokes a lot about this too. I think it's wrong. A lot of these guys are aging. Their minds not as sharp as they were. And you throw some of these guys out there, hours a week, they're gonna say some stuff that, controversial or, taking shots. And then it becomes headline news. JR said this, Kurt Angle said that. And I just think that's a weird position to put your talent in. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not, and he kind of jokes about it sometimes too. Like I remember one really bothered me. It was like Jim Ross was kind of taking shots at, I think, Eric Bischoff or something. And Conrad's like leaning back, laughing. He's like, somebody clip that. Somebody clip that. Like, that's going to get the clicks. And I was just like, you're kind of, putting these guys against each other essentially for views. And you're just getting a big laugh and giggle out of it.
And, like, especially his first name, Conrad, I really do not like him.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, I would say, I don't know. I'm so in between. I listen to him, not every show. Just the main ones I listen to are like JR and Mick. And it depends on what they're talking about, too. But, God, I mean, another thing, too, I find that he does is, it's like, I mean, are you familiar with his rant against Eric Bischoff or whatever? Like, about.
No.
Okay, well, this might be a little before your time. But, they were discussing that Hogan Sting match. Mm-hmm. And, Conrad just exploded on Bischoff, yelling and screaming, getting in his big line, you F the finish over a tan. Is this real? It was kind of like, I don't know. He was really trying to like publicly shame Eric for his, decision from like 20 years ago.
I'll be honest, Conrad, there's no publicly shaming Eric Bischoff.
Well, here's another thing. You popped my memory. Another instance. I'm just throwing them out here, as they come to me. We should be getting back to Foley, but he's okay. I got another Foley one, but I'm gonna go with this one first.
Okay.
Oh Jesus! So many memories of his shows are coming to my head. I'll start with the Foley one. Okay. What really did bother me on a recent Foley episode, and I don't even know how the hell they got into this. And no, you're gonna be saying, "Oh God," but I'm gonna keep it as clean as I can, for the PG audiences. But basically, I was like, oh my God, I almost had to pull the car over, and take a fresh breath. Well, basically, we got, a detailed explanation of how Foley, discovered himself. If you know what I'm referring to, in a biological manner.
That image is about to be burned in my head.
Oh my God. I was, driving, on the highway. I had to pull over and I was just like sick to my stomach. Like, I'm not even joking. I know it sounds like a joke. I was just, maybe I don't like him, but it is like a figure from my childhood.
Just like,
But what?
give a hint what this man was saying.
Say again, sorry?
Just give me hints on what this man was saying.
Well, it was basically, when you're getting to that age, in your teen years, and you're kind of learning, to discover yourself biologically. Basically, that was broken down step by step by Mick.
God.
He got into detail, and he was rather vile,
Like, how much detail did he get into? Like, was it
Oh,
detail
God.
or way too much detail?
Well, he kind of tried to make a joke out of it, but it was enough. He was using the word vigorously.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, oh God, I wish I could find that one again. Like, it's hard because I'd like to do some kind of talk on like all these moments, but it's so hard to go back and listen to like 3 hours of a podcast just for like, a 2-minute thing. But like that really was like very odd. I know it's like an adult men's podcast,
But like,
how many men really want to hear that?
Listening to that podcast.
What?
Like, bro, why you gotta mention that? There's probably some kid watching
Yeah,
that
oh yeah.
podcast and be like, what are y'all talking about?
And I find that very bizarre because, like I said, it's little by little breaking down Mick's kind of image of this wholesome childlike man, and now you're kind of seeing him as this kind of like, awkward teenager, sneaking into his room and doing what he needs to do. And I found that Conrad really kind of, drags it out of him. Is kind of getting them all riled up. There was, oh God, I'm guessing as a fan of this industry, Paul, you've heard of the biological enhancement blue chew.
Yes, I've heard of it way too much often.
And you are aware of
It's usually for men, like usually like for older men that usually cannot, get it up anymore.
yeah, you're describing it in a very, respectable manner. I think we know what it is.
I ain't trying to get too much into the gory details.
But God, I mean, I'm really getting sick and tired of hearing intimate details of these legends, Eric Bischoff, JR, Mick Foley, talking about their experiences with this. I mean, is that really necessary?
No, that is not necessary. That is legit, like fucking rated R TV.
Yeah, like I don't get it. I don't find it funny. I find it like truly like disturbing. It's like if you heard like your uncle.
Here's the thing that bothers me the most is why in the hell is two men talking about this shit?
Well, well, that's the thing. I think they're trying to be like, we're men, and this is stuff men talk about.
Men never.
But to me, it feels like
each other.
Listen. No. It feels to me like what it is, hearing your uncle that you've looked up to all your life, teaching you the facts of life now.
But the fact that they go that much into detail.
Yeah. And they try to make it all like laughy and jokey, but
suspicious of them too.
Say again, sorry?
It makes me feel very suspicious too. Like, are y'all seeing each other in private?
Oh God, now that's only an allegation, and pro wrestling reality stand by that comment. But No, I get where you're coming from. And what was even really disturbing to me, again, not about Mick, but Eric Bischoff, numerous times would go into detail on his whole experience using it. His preparation, yeah, I know. It's beyond, like, it's getting to the point where to even listen to, like, it's just like, oh my God, I do not want to hear about this fucking blue chew crap.
Like, Mick, you wonder why Noel never really comes around you anymore.
Oh, so you're saying it's not the blue chew that Mick needs to, have a night with his wife. He just needs the hard-bodied daughter to walk past, is what you're insinuating.
No, I'm just saying, like, there's a reason why she doesn't come around anymore, because he's a fucking dumbass.
Oh my God. Well, I just want to say too, I mean, I think I already mentioned it, but just the way, like, I remember comrades like trying to drag it out, like, tell us what you do with your wife. Do you get in there and you're yelling bang 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 and like shit like that? It's just like, come on, give the guy some decency. I mean, literally, if they're just like blue chew, enhancement for men, buy it here, that's it. But we don't need like a friggin'. We don't need
like I understand if you wanted to sponsor your thing, but like, why the hell would you go into the gory details about?
Yeah, I know,
having
and
sex
like
with
I
you?
said, exactly. Some of these guys, like I said, like JR, he's always kind of been someone I really look up to, and even my own speaking style, kind of, he was somebody who influenced me to speak, and hearing him talking about his romps with various women, and by the way, the dude lost his wife, and we're getting him on the air, like, talking about his experiences with the male enhancement.
What in the fuck?
I mean, that bothers me because, like I said, I don't know. I always kind of seen JR. He kind of reminds me like of my grandfather or something. And it's like hearing this from somebody you look up to. That's you don't expect your uncle or your grandfather to be talking like that, and when they do, it's kind of weird, because it's kind of like, yeah, I don't really agree with it. But another thing I wanted to mention too was I'm trying to think. Do you have anything to say at this point? Do you have any point you want to bring up just to give my mind a second to find the next thing I want to speak about?
I'll try my best. It's just, Mick, what the hell happened to you, man? You used to be cool back in the old.
Well, yeah, he used to have an edge to him.
Now he's just getting all gay with everything. As simple as I put it.
Well, as they say in this day and age, ass is ass. And being liberal.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll be honest in the most nicest way possible. Mick should not be talking sex with a whole other dude. He should not be.
Definitely.
He should be saying himself and his wife.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I get it. I think they're trying to just be like, we're men, and this is what I get it. It's a nitpick, but it does personally kind of bother me to just, like, I don't know, like, they're doing that for a paycheck, basically, like, humiliating themselves for a paycheck. Okay, JR, segment where we're gonna talk about when you took, Blue Chew, and like, come on, have some respect.
For real.
I mean, these legends are the reason that he is making a damn cent. And you're going to throw them out there and get them to hawk that crap? I don't buy it for a minute. And what really also bothers me, I think I already mentioned, I'm sorry. But like, honestly, it really did bother me because there are serious side effects to taking that medication.
There is.
If you don't need it, right? I found it very bizarre. The first time I heard it, it blew my mind that they were doing. The first time I heard Mick and Comrade do the Blue Chew ad,
Like,
you know,
I'm gonna be honest. Like people don't understand. Like, Blue Chew is something that you take, like, after you eat or something. Because if you don't eat in that day and you take that, it ain't gonna be good because your thing is gonna be way harder than the it's gonna be way harder than the actual time it's supposed to stay hard. It's gonna be
right?
to the point where you have to go to the hospital and be like, hey, my thing is harder than anything right now, and it's not supposed to be like this right now.
Exactly. I mean, what's Mick gonna do if his wife, just says, Mick, I'm tired tonight?
You know what Mick's gonna do. I'm not listening. It.
Okay. Another point I want to bring up is I'm trying to think of how to word this the right way. Okay, we're going to talk about him leaving Twitter. Mick did leave Twitter. I don't know. I just don't want to close this screen in case I close the stream. But I do believe he is still off Twitter. Deleted his account. He spoke out against it. And, he was very adamant. He was like, I think it's very negative. I think it's very negative, and people on there are just like wanting to hurt people for a laugh, and you're a douchebag. You're a douchebag. But then he's on there, slay. I don't care. I don't care who the is. If it's either freaking JFK or if it's Donald Trump. But he goes on there. He was on there, talking down to the president of the United States. Right? Is that not negative?
Which one was it, Trump or Joe?
It was, I think, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if it was both, but I think it was Donald Trump. And I do understand he's a very controversial figure. Again, I'm not an American, so I don't follow a lot of that stuff. But, he was very outspoken about Donald Trump. He would just slam him any chance he got. He called him a son of a bitch.
I'm like,
he was like, Vince, how about taking this son of a bitch out of our Hall of Fame?
Bro, I'm like, whenever he would do that, when he would talk about Trump, I'm like, bro, Trump would buy your whole company and fire your ass. So be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just weird that his excuse for leaving Twitter was just because it's negative. But Mick, you're contributing to it.
Mick, remember whenever he left Twitter, he was like, oh, it's because Elon Musk is gonna put out this freedom of speech thing, and people will be able to say what the fuck they want on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, that's what Twitter is supposed to be. If you
Yeah.
don't like it, go bye-bye.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And, it seems that Foley is against free speech.
Anytime a wrestler or something says something controversial that Mick does not agree with, he has to say something. Anytime.
Yeah, I wish I could find like an archive of his tweets or something. I'd kind of look through them because I know he's taken shots at
a lot of negative tweets he has put out.
Yeah, but again, I mean, was the reason he left Twitter because he couldn't handle, the negative comments, or because he realized, I'm saying a lot of negative stuff myself.
like I understand why some people do leave Twitter, because Twitter can't be a scary place.
Yeah.
It can't be an effed up place. But like, man, in your case is different. You say negative shit all the time.
Yeah. I'm just kind of thinking here on another moment that sticks out in my mind. But yeah, here, listen, like, I mean, it's different. Are you American, right?
Yes, I am American.
Okay. Then, it's a very, very odd contrast. And this has kind of been the theme of the whole episode. But, we see Mick, posing with the common everyman, at Walmart, celebrating, the American workers. Then on the other hand, he's denouncing the president of the United States. Like, you just don't do that when you're a public persona. I mean, I know people are passionate. People are entitled to their opinions, their political viewpoints. But, like, if you can't handle, the feedback to what you put out there to people, then, don't do it. Save it for the dinner table. Save it for the pillow talk.
Like, for me, honestly, I have told anybody, I said, no matter who you vote for, this place ain't gonna get any better. So why you voting?
Yeah, I think in one tweet, if I'm not wrong, he even was hinting that he was ready to leave the United States, and that was slightly.
Please leave.
I'm pretty sure that I don't know. I really have to do some research, so I don't want to say for sure. But I do slightly. It might have been another person too, like another wrestler. But I'm pretty sure he was making tweets like, "Oh, if Donald Trump wins, I'm leaving the United States."
I like, bro. I'm gonna be honest. If he ever left this country, he will be begging to come back.
You think so?
Especially if he goes to somewhere like Poland, where they don't really fuck with his bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely very, very controversial in his views. But then it's like he tries to hide behind this, oh well, I'm posing with a Make-A-Wish kid, or I'm visiting the hospital as Santa Claus. Oh doodly dee dum de doo. But hey, the president of the United States is a son of a bitch. I mean, God, dude, that I know it's a nitpick, but the dude's got something wrong with the way he presents himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not like pro Trump or anything, but I just think it's wrong to, if you're an entertainer and you're denouncing any president, whoever it is. I just think that's really a wrong move to make. And if you can't stick with what you're saying, and you get upset at the feedback, then you just should not be putting it out there.
Like for me, honestly, like I'm a person that's not really a big on Make-A-Wish
Right.
because
you
no
don't
matter
agree
how
with it, or
like I understand the point of it, but like, does it really help people as people say it does?
could you kind of get into that a little bit? I mean, what do you mean by it?
I'm gonna kind of give you an example.
Okay.
Like, for example, Make-A-Wish be sponsoring all of these type of things, right? And they have all of this money, but what do they do with it? They don't like build like like a apartments. They don't build things to get, or like build things to get like the homeless off the street, like kids
Right.
that are on the street, living on the street.
Oh, so you're kind of saying like kids who may have had an illness and as they grow out of the stage of perhaps being a Make-A-Wish kid, you're saying they're just kind of thrown to the curb.
Yeah, basically.
Interesting.
And not just that is that okay. They never use their money like for like if there's like a Make-A-Wish kid that may have a disease that's killing him, but yet there's a cure for it. They don't pay nothing to get that cure in the kid so the kid can survive.
Yeah. But they're like, oh, here's The Rock, here's John Cena. Oh, but sorry, you're not going to get, treatment for your condition. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, like people like yeah, it's seeing The Rock and Cena and all these other people. Yeah, is it cool? But you need to do shit for these kids that actually will benefit them long term.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
look at that Connor kid from way
yeah,
back when 2014, for
yeah, I
example.
know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm just saying kids in general. It's just look at that Connor kid for back then. Like they were having him do make a wish. They're having him meet Daniel Bryan, but they wasn't do anything to like find a cure for him or do
Right.
anything like that.
Oh no, I get what you're saying. It's a little kind of controversial. I'm actually going to share something here that was rather controversial in its own right.
Uh oh.
Um, MJF,
Uh oh.
giving
What
the
does
men. I mean,
MJF
I
controversy?
know it's a part of the character, but I mean, giving the finger to a frail, ailing, wheelchair bound fan.
Yeah, that's something I would like to say this right now. Y'all bash Lacey Evans for being in character, going to the ring and not high fiving a Down syndrome person, but you're clear excited to see MJF flip off an ill person in a wheelchair.
Exactly.
You're That's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't want to see this type of stuff, go bash MJF as well.
I get the whole MJF thing, but I mean, it was a little disrespectful. I mean, maybe if they requested, could you not do that? It'd be nice to think he would maybe look like, okay, well, don't let it out on Twitter or whatever. But I don't know. Has a weird aspect to it.
Like, to me, like when you see Lacey, she was clearly in character. It's not like she would do that, in real life when the cameras are not on.
Yeah.
But MJF, on the other hand, just being a complete dick to everyone.
Jesus. I'll have to check that out because I didn't really focus on what was going on there. So you're saying that a WWE star like didn't high five a Down syndrome kid?
Yeah, like okay, it was on SmackDown very recently, like the
Okay.
SmackDown before the Rumble, first match back. Okay,
Yeah.
she's coming down the ramp and she sees a kid, a Down syndrome kid, and she thought, well, maybe she was holding up her hand to give her a high five,
Yeah.
and he was gonna touch her hand so he could give her a high five, and she pulled it away and not give him that high five, and she did her job as a heel was to get heat. Okay, I have no
Yeah. And
problem with that.
maybe she didn't even really realize. You know what I mean? I mean, you're kind of in the heat of the moment. You're just kind of doing your thing,
Yeah,
right?
but they're bashing her. But what about MJF, who will legit in meet and greets legit flip off a dude in a wheelchair that's ill as shit? That
Yeah.
that wheelchair person wants
Yeah,
to go
because
to
you got
see
to
his
think like the guy who's in the wheelchair might be okay with it, but I guess other people might look at that and be like, "What the hell? Like, what's with that?" But he'd have to be like, "Oh, well, that's his character." But people that don't understand wrestling might be like, kind of hot about that.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand why
Interesting.
they go after Lacey, but sure as hell will not go after MJF. That's the thing that legit I don't understand. Is it because Lacey's white? Is it because she's a white person doing that? But you're okay with a Jewish guy legit flipping off someone?
Yeah. Oh my god. Now I'm just gonna go back because I think it's kind of weird because again it's about Foley and we're gonna connect it to that Make a Wish Foundation. I think he was a kind of over embellishing a little bit. He was saying stuff like he'd go into a sick kid's room for like 4 hours as Santa Claus, in character, and you really buy that? I mean,
But like I don't buy it. But like, bro, why you in there for 4 hours?
yeah.
Why you in there for 4 hours, my guy? You doing something you're not supposed to be doing?
No, now, come on. We're not going to go down that, route. Get what you're saying. But it's just what I'm saying is I think kind of he's trying to make himself look like, oh, I went through a grueling 4-hour visit with this kid as Santa Claus. And he answered all his questions and, it was so beautiful. But, like, it's hard work. Stuff like I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, it's just there's so much like messed up things in the community of wrestling, and so many like one-sided things that kind
Oh
of
yeah,
piss me off. Like,
you know what? I'm not going to go. This is a whole other topic, but I'm even kind of getting to the point where sometimes it's like something I don't really even want to let people know. I'm into. Just because a lot of the negative kind of connotations of it.
mm-hmm.
What really did disturb me the most, I'm only gonna say this for a second. I don't know if you see it, the episode of Dark Side of the Ring, the plane ride from hell. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like honestly, I was literally sick to my stomach after watching that episode, and I went up to like I have a plastic bin of all my wrestling DVDs. I was literally like, I'm gonna throw this in the freaking garbage because all these people I watched growing up that I looked up to or enjoyed watching are all drunks, abusers, and I don't know. It really made me feel kind of like dirty or something. I was like, that was really like awful. After like that is one of the only times in wrestling I watched like a documentary where I was literally like sick.
And like I remember when that Dark Side of the Ring thing special aired from Plane Ride from Hell. I'm like,
Yeah.
First of all, why is this being talked about now?
Well, no, it's actually that's the thing is it was talked about quite often. I remember hearing about it in maybe like 2010, 2011. But it was always kind of in this light, like, oh, the plane ride from hell, they all got in whoop-de-doo and blah, blah, blah. But then when they actually broke down the whole, like, honestly, I'm going to get, like, really vivid. Honestly, man, when they showed that scene of, like, them all, the plane all wrecked and everything, all just kind of getting off the plane, and, like, that made me sick to my stomach. Just that they kind of acted that way and then could just kind of leave it all behind and kind of move on with their lives. It's another day in the office. Like, that really bothered me.
Yeah, it's just the things that David's Bixman decided to target in that third season of Dark Side of the Ring was really messed up topics that
Yeah, honestly,
shouldn't
that I
be.
think that might have been one of the best. Because you know me, I mean, you've seen my videos and stuff. I think that was one of the best wrestling things like ever made, like ever.
Just the things that he talked about in that third season was things that shouldn't be talked about today.
hmm
And clearly, all wrestlers that were involved in that are legit sorry for what happened. But here's my thing about that whole plane ride from hell thing. If the girls that accused Rick of doing things on that
Oh
plane,
God, don't get me started.
I'm gonna explain. If
Yeah.
it was so much an issue, why the hell did you wait like 2 to 25 years later just to say something about it?
Oh my God. Well, like I said, I mean, are you a big fan of like music? You told me before you were a fan of music, right?
Yes.
And I would guess you're probably familiar with the Rolling Stones.
Oh yeah.
And are you
I'm an
familiar with
oldie.
what?
I'm an oldie.
Okay. Yeah, so you would also be aware of like Jim Morrison and the Doors.
Oh yeah.
Now, you see, back then, those were two bands that, you know, I don't know the whole context, but the lead singers took their private parts out on stage, and there was a big controversy. He the moment or whatever it was, the liquor or drugs, and it was kind of a big moment. I think Jim Morrison was like arrested on stage. It's kind of like this big music moment. But what Flair was doing was far beyond that. Because a lot of people just were like, well, we thought it was funny, we'd all be like, hey, Rick, run around naked and blah, blah, blah. The boys want to see it. And I was like, dude, that's ridiculous.
And like I remember Ric Flair was on a podcast before the Plane Ride from Hell special aired, and he thought it was going to air, and he said, "I will give you names. Anyone. He will name anyone just to get his name cleared."
Yeah. Well, how's he going to clear his name? Tommy Dreamer was on the episode trying to defend it.
I guess it's a confusing situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different time and stuff. But the way they described it is, this wasn't like in private or in the dressing room. This was like in a hotel bar or restaurant, where there was like families on vacation having dinner, with their families. Who have no idea who Ric Flair is. They just see this old grandpa looking guy, in a robe running around with his private parts. I mean, I think that could really bother some people. I mean, come on, it would bother some people. It wasn't just something the boys wanted to see. It was something that Rick subjected other people to.
It's just, it's a.
No, I'm gonna ask you. I don't know if you know. They didn't do any kind of Foley episode on Dark Side of the Ring, did they? I don't
That's
think
the
so.
thing. That's the thing that really kind of weirded me out.
What?
Is why don't you do an episode of Foley on there?
Well, what would you cover if you chose to? I mean, they already kind of did Beyond the Mat, which was kind of like that.
Ah, damn. You're right.
Yeah. When you think about it, it kind of really was like that for its time. When you think about Beyond the Mat and Foley, what really troubled me about it was, first off, we see the whole scene with his daughter watching him take all those chair shots, right?
Yeah.
And then years later, Paul, at a TNA event, again, Hardcore Justice 2010, we get Tommy Dreamer and Raven doing like a blood hardcore street fight. Foley is the referee. What do you think happens in that match?
I don't remember, dude.
Okay, no, that's fine. You hold your breath. After what we've seen in Beyond the Mat and how traumatizing it was for Mick's daughters, like 10 or 11 years later, Tommy Dreamer and Raven decide to do the exact goddamn thing with Foley, just standing there. They had Tommy Dreamer's daughters in the audience, and they were like, cutting each other open in front of Tommy's daughters, and they were crying and they were being, rushed off. You don't think Mick would have been like, that's not a good idea. You should not do that. I always thought that was so bizarre.
Yeah, that's the thing I never understood about Mick is, okay, you're supposed to be this peace-loving guy, this PG guy, but when it comes to hardcore matches, whenever there's legit people in the audience that does not want to see it, you're just, okay, we're gonna do it.
Yeah. But it was also challenging because Foley was back at that time when he was doing some of those hardcore matches, around 2000. He was talking a lot in interviews saying, like, what else do fans want from me? I've been thrown off the cage. I've been blah, blah, blah. I've been hit in the head with the chair. What else do they want? Mick, you're making the decisions to go out there and do these things. Nobody's asking you to do it. And then you're blaming the fans that they basically want to see you die in the ring. That's how he would word it. The fans aren't going to, he would be like saying stuff like, this is late 90s, early 2000s. He'd be saying, I've done so much. I don't think the fans are going to be happy until I die in the ring.
For real.
So he would make the choice to go out there and do those things, and then he would, fire at the fans for like being too bloodthirsty.
It's just Mick is a confusing person.
Well, here, I'm going to ask you one more question because I think you'd be a good person to answer this and give your view.
Okay.
So you're obviously very familiar with the daughter, Noelle. I'm very probably progressive. Okay. Oh, are you? Do you have to take off or?
No, it's just
okay. I thought somebody was like coming to get yours, pick you up or something. Okay, do you think a lot of Foley's political views, stem from the fact, he's got this hard-bodied, liberal now? So, if Foley's going to say, I'm pro this, I'm pro Trump, I'm pro gun, that's going to cause a lot of friction in the Foley household.
Probably.
Yeah, I think that is a part of it as well.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I have to change my clothes over. I have to kind of transition my clothes to the dryer.
Oh my God! You know what? I'm doing the same thing. You go right ahead.
I'll be right back.
I'll take over here. We're gonna take it. Actually, I'm just gonna put myself on mute for 2 minutes and then use the washroom. Then I'm gonna come back and talk my next point until you're back.
All right.
All right. We are just on a short break. Just hold on a moment.
I'm
I
back.
am here. Yeah, okay,
I'm back.
sounds good. Actually, we're getting a little bit of heat because
Uh-oh.
some fans, change the topic right now, or
Oh
they
boy.
won't join. You see, I get that sometimes because I do know some people who are like die-hard like fans of mix. So like when they see something like this and they don't know like the insides and out of it, they get kind of hot.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I try to think of it as like, well, there's the guy who had amazing matches, who really did break new ground at his time, but then there's this other guy, that
This guy behind the scenes is a
yeah,
complete utter dick.
like I said, I mean, especially in something like the wrestling, you're doing all that hardcore stuff. You gotta and change with the times. I get your opinion. What did you think of when, if you know any, or if you have anything to say about it, what do you think about when they turn mankind kind of into this more, comedy, playful clown type character? When before he was truly like a dark, groundbreaking psychological
Like I
character.
I did not like it.
No, no.
It was legit a dumb decision, which was probably made by Russo
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because
Well,
he
no,
wanted
I
to
believe it was Foley's choice to kind of tone down things and become a more comedic character.
I would like to say he was the start of this PG bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Um, there was a really good point I wanted to bring up. I kind of lost it. 1 second. It was around that time. Okay, well, anyway, so like I was saying, I said in my video, I mean, everybody's got to kind of change with the times. And I mean, for Mick, it was like, trading really strong promos, for a Chef Boyardee commercial, chair shots to the head for a guest on Boy Meets World.
And, and like I think that stuff started in 1999 when they went
Yeah,
publicly traded company.
yeah.
Is they
And
started
they kind of
using
used Mick as this kind of, I think they were calling him like a Muppet,
like
kind of like a hand puppet,
like whenever WWE went public, they started using Kane, Mick Foley, and all these other people for commercials. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, I know it was kind of it's just such a different time. I mean,
Like, I remember, like in 1999, I remember during that time, just looking back on it now, when they went public, I said this was the start of the downfall of this company. It was the start.
yeah, yeah,
It's legit. It's the truth. It was the start when they went public. They got themselves into the New York Stock Exchange. It was the start of the downfall of WWE. The ratings fucking proved it.
yeah. But
It
I
went
think if
down.
they done that, they probably would have like been off the air.
Like
It's just
they,
honestly, it's hard, man, because I am a fan. I've loved it all my life, but wrestling is kind of like this very like kind of I don't know. It's like kind of like a dirty, kind of sleazy, like weird
Yeah.
thing to a lot of people. And I think it makes a lot of people very uncomfortable because they don't understand it. So
Like for example, like I will never understand why Vince McMahon decided to put his company as public, because when he did that, he was no longer invincible anymore.
yeah, exactly. He's got people to answer to now, and he's answering to them now.
Because, like for example, like okay, WWE now, they still want to be like on national TV. I'm like, bro, no one watches TV anymore. People watch streaming services now.
Yeah,
Like, use your WWE network, put your shows on there, and you may get more people subscribe to the WWE network than they are to fucking a a cable TV thing.
yeah. Well, I've always said, I mean, I'm from Canada here. It's a little more complicated to get it. You know, if I would have been able to just put my credit card in, turn on my like PS4 or whatever, and press WWE Network, I probably would have had it. I probably would have been paying for it for like years.
That's what I've been saying this entire time. Like if you put Raw, SmackDown, NXT on the WWE network, you will get more eyes, you will get more money coming in, and you won't have to worry about networks, you won't have to worry about sponsorships, you won't have to worry about any of that.
Well, it all
You
comes
can
down to
just
the money.
be what
Here,
you
listen,
want to
I
do.
remembered what I wanted to talk about, Paul. I just want to get to this topic before I forget again. I think it's important.
Okay.
You do know that Foley is, in fact, a WWE champion, correct?
Yeah.
And you know that he won that title from defeat Rock. Have you seen that match or?
Yes, I have. Even though I did not understand the point of having Mick defeat The Rock, because let's just be honest for a second, Mick's title win was terrible.
Well, you know, I would argue that Mick did not beat Rock because Austin did the run in and, you know, kind of scoop Mick's heat. Do you think that New York just didn't buy Mick being able to defeat The Rock by himself, or that, you know, would make Rock look bad? You know, losing to this kind of like, you know, older kind of, and he was only like in his 30s at that time. But, you know, this kind of like Rock was probably like 23 or something, but, you know, losing to this kind of out of shape, you know, weirdish kind of guy. I always just felt like that title run was kind of more like, you know, congratulations, you know, you've given us a lot, but we don't really see you at that top spot.
Like, yeah, I felt that, but you have to understand, like, Mick was not in good in ring shape at all.
No.
Like for
No.
example, if he tried to go get someone like John Moxley, Moxley would wipe out forward.
Oh my god, I really do not think we are going to see a Mick for a lifetime ever again. Even in TNA, at times it was kind of concerning seeing him in the ring.
Why do you think he was in so many hardcore matches all the time?
Yeah.
Because he couldn't be in an actual match.
Yeah, because he had
Because it
to
would
take.
make
Well,
things
actually, I
look
will say, hey, listen. In his book, he does talk about going through actual wrestling training, and what got him noticed was the fact that they would like do moves on him for hours every day. Like they'd be giving him all these moves, and he'd just be like, you know, whatever, I'll be back tomorrow. And then the coach or whatever was like, huh, like maybe we got something here with this guy. because he just seems to not really feel the pain. I thought that was
And
really interesting.
I feel like, to be honest, I think Bray Wyatt does Mick Foley's job better than Mick Foley did it. Because
Well, it's
the
hard to
reason
say because Bray Wyatt is far from as groundbreaking as Mick was
what
at the
I'm
peak of his
saying
career. But
what
you're
I'm
talking
saying
about like for the same kind of size guys.
what I'm saying is like in character. Like Bray's able to
Okay.
keep his character relevant
Right.
per se.
Yeah, because I guess he kind of has that bit of like a kiddie-ish edge to him. I don't watch a lot, but he has like the puppets and but he also is kind of like a dark character. He's kind of like a mix of like the original Foley and kind of like the puppety one.
It's like if you could have like Mick Foley and Taker have a baby, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
And
Yeah, no.
for example, you have I already said whenever Bray was like that Funhouse Bray and the Fiend, it was the perfect thing that he ever did
Oh
because
yeah. I already, like I said, we're getting that cool thing with the Undertaker whispering in his ear, and everyone's like, that's Mark passing the torch. We'll see. We don't know what was said. There's speculation, but he
like
seems to be pegged for that Undertaker spot. And actually, in his day, Mick was kind of pegged as that next Undertaker character before came along.
yeah, but Mick decided, hey, I'm gonna go PG.
Well, he described it saying that original character, like in the brown, dark kind of character, wouldn't have fit. That it would have gotten stale. But really, I think that was quite something. Maybe it wouldn't have lasted forever, yes, but it was pretty groundbreaking. It showed that back in the peak of his youth, he was willing to kind of go outside what was normal. And I remember as a kid, it was kind of scary, a little bit.
It's just I remember, for example, at the Rumble, whenever I seen Bray and what he was able to do, I'm like, this guy is a fucking genius,
Yeah.
pure genius. And the reason I say this is because Bray legit, when he talks about building a character, he doesn't just use what he has seen from wrestling. He uses real life elements, like from Charles Manson or John Wayne Gacy, or those type of people, and it
Mhm.
legit works.
Yeah. Um, who do you think is in better shape physically, Bray Wyatt or Kevin Owens?
Probably Bray.
Yeah, that's not a hard one to answer, huh?
Yeah, because Bray legit has shown of him training before.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. What do you? I just want to ask you really quick. What's your thoughts on Kevin Owens? I honestly, I can't even look at him, man.
Like, when I look at him now, he looks way different from what he looked like years ago.
Oh yeah.
He looks like he has this big humongous mohawk on his head, and I'm like, dude, look at the hair you had, dude. You used to look cool.
I just think he kind of looks just like, and I guess you could say the same about Foley, but he looks kind of just like the average fan, sitting on the couch eating a bowl of potato chips.
Yeah, it's just
But people
I
do like him.
I just this stuff for Bray, man. it has me so hooked. It has me so much interest to what this man is able.
Oh, really?
Like what we saw at the Rumble. Just this new
The recent
thing.
event. Yeah, no, I didn't watch it. How was that event?
It it there wasn't really that surprises from like the old timers, but it was more so surprises from like the new, like the present and the future type of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Like we weren't getting Shawn Michaels, running
No,
down. Oh.
it was not Vince's vision at all. It was
So this
more
would kind of be
so
like the first event under Paul, or
like it was more so Hunter wants to focus on the present
youth.
and the future.
Was there any like big prizes, or like who's like the biggest like legend that came out? Would you say?
Booker T and Michelle McCool.
Oh, good God! Is that really where we are now?
Is just I think he wants a lot of the women that are like in like catering and stuff. He
Yeah.
wants them to be used.
Oh God! I mean, nothing wrong about Booker T, but I mean, it's kind of sad that he's like kind of no, I shouldn't say this. Is kind of wrong sounding, but that he's like the legend now. God, I remember when he was like just like an up and coming star, like just getting his start. Anyway, who won the event, if you don't mind me asking?
The men's rumble, it was pretty predictable.
The Miz?
Cody
Oh
won.
God!
I mean, let's just be honest. We all knew it was gonna be Cody. And Rhea fucking Ripley won the match from all the way from number 1.
Another reason to not have to say that the other unnamed individual who won that event at number 1. Right? Am I not? No, I will admit I like Rhea Ripley. She's unique.
I do like her.
Has the body.
Even she said that she appreciates the comparisons to China that she's been getting as of late.
Oh my God! People in one of the chats are like, "Oh, sorry, talking about Mick Foley's sexuality isn't for me." That's funny. That's funny. Well, anyway, one other thing we can talk about is, Foley's big Royal Rumble moment, the coming out as 3 characters. I mean, that was kind of groundbreaking, I guess, for its time.
Like, it was cool, but like, bro, you took up 3 spots from people that could have had those spots.
Oh, that's very true. I didn't think of it like that. That is true. A little selfish, little
That's
political.
What I'm saying. Like, dude, you took
and then
up,
I
like,
think actually
3...
I was just listening to the Royal Rumble 2000 episode, and Mick was like, "Oh, that wasn't my idea. I just showed up, and that's what they wanted to do."
Bro, your characters, this has to be your idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, he just travel around with all 3 outfits in his bag? Probably. Or? Yeah, always bring the gear, huh? Here's another thing I want to bring up. It has to do with Mick's role in TNA. Me and you discussed China before, correct?
Yeah.
Now, Foley spoke very passionately about China. It was actually quite, I will admit, for all the negative we're talking, it was quite touching. He said that they were, like really close friends, and his daughter, China was like her hero. Like she was like, "When will I see China? When will I see China?" But what I really found weird was how Foley introduced China as somebody that he has an immense sexual chemistry or something line. It was something like that. I've always felt me and China had, an untamed sexual energy or something along that line.
And I'm gonna be honest, I understand why he's saying it.
But where did it come from? Like, it
Because
just seems like totally like, whoa. I remember that. I remember that.
you gotta remember, this is China we're talking about here. She has a history of doing things.
Here, just while you're talking, you go on. I'm gonna see if I can find that clip really quick.
Because
keep going.
China has a history of
doing the tapes and kind of having that sexual edge is what you're kind of trying to say. Yeah. So you're kind of just saying he said it based on that?
I guess, but Nick, bro, chill out. You would have never fared in a relationship with China.
Oh God, I don't think he would have the vitality. Even Xbox Sean Waltman was like,
So, I'm gonna be honest, more so China would fuck him.
yeah. No, that I do not disagree with you. Here, I'm gonna ask you the straight up question. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty here. Just straight up.
I ain't trying to get graphic with it, but shit, it's the truth.
Here, I'm gonna ask you: China hot or not?
Oh, if whenever she's not talking, yeah, but whenever she just opens her, legit ruins it for me.
Oh.
Because whenever she legit opens her mouth, it sounds like a guy.
Oh yeah, I can get what you're saying, and yeah, she really went through hell. I actually want to read her book. I haven't found it yet, but she really apparently had quite a life, and
my issue with China is, okay, we could have had her in the Hall of Fame years ago.
Oh, don't even get me started on it.
Years ago, we could have had it, but every year she would constantly just talk bad about WWE and legit burning that bridge.
Yeah. Calling. She said she made the rape allegations against Waltman and Paul. And what WWE always, and this makes absolutely no sense. They were concerned that if they put China in the Hall of Fame, that younger fans would be like, "Oh, who's this? I want to."
That was during the time of 2015 when they were in the PG era, when they were trying to get away from.
Yeah,
and I understand why.
Yeah, but here, hold on, Paul. This is what bothers me. Okay, so we don't put China in the Hall of Fame because we're worried that younger fans will go on the internet and want to learn about this star they haven't heard about and find the tapes. But then we got Paige, taking the finish on their world title, and she gets a freaking Hollywood feature film based on her. And that was around the same time, 2015, 16, 17. I don't know when that movie came out.
And it's the same thing I've said about Mandy too.
Who?
Mandy Rose. Okay?
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna explain it the best I can. Okay, this girl legit does her own site that's not even WWE related.
Yeah.
Does her own site, makes her own money on the side as a side hustle, and
it was what is it, like an OnlyFans? I don't know. I kind of aware of the situation, not really.
She does on. It was called Fan Time. It was her own money on the side, not even WWE related, but they get mad about it and fire her over it, but they're completely okay with legit Paige jacking a dude off and
Yeah.
making a dude nut on the NXT Women's title.
Yeah. And like the way I see it, I mean, maybe some privates lined in gold are more valuable than others in that company.
I feel like Paige may have done some extra favors to keep her job intact.
Yeah. I don't know. There's this thing about Paige, like, you know,
I never liked her.
I just get this weird vibe, like she might be hot, but like you'd want to kind of just be like, you trash. Like, I don't know. She gives this very trashy vibe to me.
She complains about her mental health and all that stuff. I'm like, girl, you put yourself in these situations.
Exactly.
Like, for example, okay, I remember when her tapes were leaked. She was like, I didn't consent to this. I didn't want these out. I'm like, why the fuck did you make the tapes in the first place?
Well, I mean, in this era, if you're with somebody you really care about and trust, that could be something that could take place. And you have to make the decision if that's something you're comfortable with or not. And you have to really think of the future.
And trust, and like, I remember, like, I said to myself, like, Paige, if you don't like, you say you don't like the tapes, but I've seen some of the tapes, and you clearly love what happened in the tapes. You all smiling, all fucking tongue out and everything.
Yeah, yeah. She, like I said, that happened, and then she was kind of, oh, well, here's a Hollywood movie based on it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how many guys did you have to suck just to get that movie? Like,
well, yeah, and that was just kind of bothered me with China because I never got that. That was just such a weird reason. But then we do eventually get her in the Hall of Fame, but it's just as a member of DX.
Hey, we have her in the Hall of Fame. That's it.
Yeah,
at least she's in it. It's better. At least she's in it. It's a win for people that wanted her in it. So here you go.
Yeah, and she got like an action figure released, and she's kind of part of the family again.
She's in. Well, I think the reason that they're able to get her back in the family now is because when she was alive, she will be constantly talking smack.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever watch that interview where she's in the radio studio, and then she's dropping all the allegations, and then the dude calls in, and he's like, "That's all bullcrap." She's like, "Well, you were always running off with this guy," and blah blah blah. Like, that was quite the interview.
I know that one. It was whenever she called the tape that her and X-Pac did, the rape tape. I'm like, sir, I've seen the tape for myself. You were not.
Oh God! Well, listen, I would say might not be something I'd put on with the girlfriend on a Saturday night, but
I'm just saying, I've seen it. You were not raped, girl.
Well, what she argues is that it was called that because there were certain things that Waltman did that she didn't agree to, right? But she didn't stop it. It you know what I'm saying. I mean, a police investigation could be done on that tape, and they'd be like, well, nothing here shows abuse or anything like that. And that was a really touchy subject for its time because I read rumors that actually after Triple H and what's her name, Stephanie, got together and Waltman and China hooked up, it was actually Shawn and Triple H who kind of pressured Waltman into it, saying it would be good for his career. And China was kind of pushing X-Pac into it, saying, oh, well, look what it did for, what's her name, Tommy Lee and whoever,
Well,
girl next.
we don't know if that's true. It's just a mere rumor. We don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's very bizarre. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. Very bizarre that was kind of the way Mick directed it. I mean, it's if it's what you said is true. Like, did he want to bring attention to her recent film?
I mean, if I know Mick, probably. And like, I don't know when he made that. Of course, when he made that comment.
Oh, it was 2010.
Okay,
2011,
yeah.
2010, 2012, around
Okay,
around that.
yeah, maybe that's what he was intentionally for.
Yeah.
And like, okay, it's just like,
Why bring like sexuality into it is kind of my question. This is a very kind of strong, powerful, influential woman, but we got to take her down to somebody who's making Mick Foley turned on?
yeah,
Bizarre.
that was just hella weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was like an inside joke or something. It always caught me off guard. Just the idea of Mick Foley and China. I wish I could remember the term he used. It was so weird. I think he said they had unmatched sexual chemistry, or just he threw out something like that. And I remember being like, what the heck? Where did that come from? But it kind of makes sense, I guess, because back in the day, I mean, she was like slamming his head into the cage and hitting him in the where. So maybe that's kind of what he was referencing.
Oh God!
Like that she could really put a beating on him or so. You know what I mean? I mean,
like, bro, did you like being dominated by a woman?
well, I mean, when you look back, that was actually quite groundbreaking for its time. Like a female, or like attacking a male and them actually, falling over from it. Like that was probably pretty groundbreaking for back then. Here, I'm going to ask you a question really quick because I won't keep you much longer. This has been a great episode. What's your? I'm going to ask you what would you rather, your least favorite Foley moment or your favorite Foley moment?
I really do not know, dude, because I'm not the biggest Foley guy. Never really was. Never really got the appeal.
Oh, like you've never been into them. You just are like me.
Like at first when he was doing like the dark mankind character, at first I was into him. But whenever he got into like the comedic side and started doing this PG crap, I'm like, just shoot.
It kind of really was like, I don't know. He kind of became like a dad joke or something. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of. But I get that. I mean, everybody changes as they grow older, and their edge is kind of gone, and they're just kind of complacent. They don't want to break new ground. But you got to remember too, when he was doing that kind of comedy character, that was when he did the Hell in the Cell with Undertaker. Like that's when he did the I Quit match with Rock. So he was still kind of going back to his original roots, but it was just not the same. I mean, it was like this comedic character that's just the guy who gets beat up all the time. It wasn't like, well, risk-taking, death-defying Mick Foley. Here's the silly comedy guy. That's what I seen him as growing up as a kid. Because Mankind in the white dress shirt and mask was like the first way I've ever seen him as a kid. To me, it was like, oh, here's the goofy guy who just gets beat up. Like that's what it was to me growing up. Learned like more about it, right?
Yeah. God, talk about this stuff is making my head hurt.
Well, we can end it here if you want.
We can discuss some more stuff
Okay,
Just
I'll
two
try
more
to think of
topics.
a good ending topic for us here. Give me a second. Okay, well, here's something I'll throw out. What do you
Okay.
think of the whole thing about when Mick Foley got his introduction? Made this bizarre rant about what was it? He never got a pin over Chris Jericho, and then Chris Jericho runs up to the stage and lays down for Mick.
Yeah, that was really weird.
I never got that. I mean, maybe it was like an inside joke or something, and they just like never faced each other, so it was kind of like a joke, but weird.
It's just that that thing was like, whenever I watch it, I was like, what the hell is happening? This is supposed to be a Hall of Fame speech.
I'm trying to think of just a few other short things I can bring up here. It's hard because it's just like so my mind is just like rubber banding everything. I mean, here's a question I'll ask you. How long do you think that his podcast is going to go?
I think it's gonna go far.
You think it'll eventually kind of? Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't know. It depends on what he's talking about. But I do find he's not really like stories are okay, but he's not very like entertaining to listen to. Really, I find he's very kind of like droning and quiet and slow. He doesn't have like a good presentation to the way he talks. I find.
God, I cannot think right now.
No, it's okay. Here, I'll kind of take over as we kind of wrap things up. Anyway, I want to make it clear. Don't totally hate him. I mean, I respect what he's done. Don't agree with some of the statements and way he portrays himself in this modern era. Sad, to see where he ends up doing this Conrad Thompson shilling for blue shoe crap, and just some of the stuff that's said on that friggin' podcast just makes me cringe. But hey, in a way, I mean, it's got me tuning in.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't want to hear. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of like a childhood. Like, it'd be like hearing like Mr. Rogers go, "Hey, you know what I did last night? Like, I took Blue Chew and like, I don't know, something like that."
That's what it reminds me of. Like
It's weird.
Child talking about something he shouldn't be talking about.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, recently, Mick's been using this new like sentence where he's like, whenever they talk about a product, Mick will be like, "Well, hey, like I use this, and if I didn't use it and if I didn't agree with it, I would not have it on the show." And he starts. So, oh my God, this was so bizarre. I think this is YouTube. He's talking about like a razor, and he starts like shaving on the air. And Conrad's like, "Oh, are you gonna cut yourself? You're gonna do a gig like on the air?" And he's like, No, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing." And then, for God's sake, Conrad says, "Are we gonna get a sample of you on Blue Chew next?"
So, what in the hell?
God. I said that out loud. I was like, "Good Lord. Are you going to have a friggin' 67-year-old man sit there, give him Blue Chew, and just let him rant on live air? What the hell is wrong with that dude?"
It's just it's hella weird.
But yeah, okay. Here's the final question I'll ask.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up. I really appreciate you chatting with me today. Will we see Mick back in New York in that major entertainment company, or is he kind of somebody that we probably just won't see again?
Probably won't ever see it again because he was invited to Wall 30 and he didn't go.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I never heard about that. Do you have the inside scoop on that, or?
No, it's just I saw it when I was scrolling through Twitter. I saw it. I was like, "Yep, that's Mick Foley, all right."
Oh, interesting. I'll have to look into that. Okay, well, anyway, listen, it was great talking to you. Thanks for joining me in the whole time. I think this was a good one. I have this one recorded so fans can listen. Gonna end it here. Thank you, Paul, for joining us and talking with the fans. Wish you a great night. And hey, I'm gonna leave you with this one final catchphrase, okay?
Okay.
Have a nice day. Right? No, long way away from when he used to say that. Right?
Hold on. I have to do mine now. I have to do mine.
All right.
Bye.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too, man. All right, we'll leave it there for tonight. Talk to you again another time. Peace out.
Peace out.